Hey, peace and blessings, family. I know it's been a while since y'all seen me on Sunday Sitting with Sisters, doing a little bit of hiatus and housekeeping, and a lot of things have happened, good and challenging, but I'm still here. So right now, I'm coming to you live from Georgia. I'm on a Unity road trip. So, for the past 11 years, I've done the Quality of Life road trip where I take young ladies that I work with throughout the school year who are volunteered and given hours to go on a road trip across the United States and Canada to learn about their history, their culture, contributions that African Americans have made to this country, which makes it the country that it is. And they get to learn everything, like the great, the wonderful, the not so wonderful. But most importantly for me, they get to learn about the root of this country and what has happened to us in the past and how it's shaping the future. So we visit different museums and colleges and we meet with folks and groups of people. And it's really, really insightful. So I've been doing that for the past 11 years. This year, thanks to Sister Javon Muhammad, I was able to work with her in doing the Unity Road Trip. You're probably thinking, what is the Unity Road Trip? Well, the Unity Road Trip is basically where we take five African American girls, high school age, and five Chinese American girls, high school age, and we take them on the road trip around the United States, if you will, and they get to learn about both contributions to the U.S. So Chinese Americans' contributions from when they came here in the 1800s, and then African Americans when we came here from, some say 1619, some say 1555, however you take it. So we are basically doing that. And it's been very, very insightful because even I get to learn some things too new. I mean, I always learn things new, but I really get to learn um, some of the cultural things. I think sometimes in some of our communities, we talk as if we know the other side or we know what goes on in certain communities, but there's nothing like talking to people who live it. So that's what the Unity Road Trip is about. I'm drinking some tea this morning because I'm in Georgia and I've been up for about like maybe an hour. I'm doing a little bit of laundry. So anyway, that's what I'm doing. But also along the way, we've been having interesting conversations. What I do find in talking to the girls is that no matter what their background is, economically, politically, socially, whatever, they are all experiencing pretty much some of the same things. So whether if they're talking about their challenges in school or challenges with people's expectations of them, I learned this thing called the model minority. I've never really personally heard of that before, but I guess it exists where people think that Asian Americans, Chinese Americans are the model minority in America. So I learned about that phrase and learned how a lot of them are like rejecting that phrase. Another thing that I'm learning is that Asians are kind of new to this fight of fighting for rights or woke or whatever. Even though, I'll be honest with you, there have been one or two Chinese Americans who have went and mainly lived amongst African Americans and got into the fight that way. But mainly a lot of them have not done that. Like they just kind of lived in their communities because for some reason they were left alone a little bit. I mean, they had their bouts with white people, it's true, but pretty much they were kind of left alone. And plus, when they came to this country, they didn't come here as enslaved people. They came here with money, and they came here to build industry. So there's a different respect level. Also, what's been very insightful is hearing what both the Black and Asian girls are saying about what they're learning about being up and close on plantations in the South. That they're really learning about. They didn't know what slavery really was about, and I feel like when I hear African Americans say stuff like, our history didn't start with slavery, no one said it did. That's number one. But I must be honest with you, America is great because of slavery. There's no denying that. So when you come face to face on a plantation, seeing how people live, seeing how harsh it is, some of us need to go to those places to remind ourselves about what this is really about. So even the woke people need to go. I think they need to go probably more than the people who we know are dead sleep. So, it's hearing some of their responses. But what I always get to hear from Black girls, because I always pull them to the side, usually it's just us, and we discuss how do you feel about being in this place. I hear the same things from them all the time. And part of those things that I hear is, I got to do better. Like I'm paying attention to the wrong things. I'm distracted by the wrong things. And I think when you think about the reality TV shows and just all the foolishness, fighting or watching fights on YouTube or whatever it is, we be so distracted with what people are doing in their lives that you can't focus on your own life or your own ancestry. I think reparations would be much easier if Black people went to those plantations. We went to Stagville, of course. I go there every year. And normally what we do, we go to Stagville, and then we go about 20 miles or so away from Stagville, still North Carolina, and we go to the Coleman Hawkins Institute, where it shows you what a Black woman did right up out of slavery, well, 20 years out of slavery or so. This woman built a school, and Nat King Cole's wife, that was her aunt, if you will. But this woman educated a lot of people, so much so, this to show you how linked I was to that place and didn't know it. One of my favorite teachers, who's an ancestor now, Mr. Frank Withrow, his mother went to that school. Here's a man who loved on me and took care of me as a student at C.K. McClatchy in Sacramento. So how much I am oh how much I owe Mrs. Coleman Hawkins, how much I owe Miss Charlotte for doing what she did, because she impacted someone's mother who later impacted me. So that's why we go to those places. That's why we go to those places. So, okay, family. So so now we're in Atlanta. We're gonna do some things here in Atlanta. We're here for a couple of days, and then after Atlanta, we're going to the Lynching Memorial, which this would be like my either third or fourth time going. For some reason, I can't see the comments, but it's okay. So yeah, we'll be going there, and that place always rocks my socks. We did go to the African American Smithsonian, and again, that place is incredible. I don't know how you cannot go there and walk away not feeling fantastic. It's hard now. Don't get it twisted. It's hard looking at all the things that our people have been through. But man, it just shows you what you're made of. I mean, everything they talk about, social clubs. I keep saying one of these days I'm going to go there and I'm going to try to write everything that I can, because I think I need to pull it into a lesson in my classes this year. I want to figure out how to take my kids from Sacramento in all my schools this year. So I'll be in Sac City, Folsom, Cordova, Elk Grove. I want to take those Black kids to that African American Smithsonian, but I got to figure out how to do it. Like I got to meet somebody with some real money. Like somebody with some money that's willing to invest in Black girls. That's what my struggle has been. And I got to find someone who can put their money where their mouth is, and not just their mouth where no money is. You know what I mean? So we went there, and I just feel like, man, if I could take my kids anywhere, I want to take them to the African American Smithsonian, and I want to take them to the Lynching Memorial in Montgomery, Alabama. I feel like those are two places. I'm going to figure this out, but I think those are two places that you must go. You must go, because that's a part of the fight. They have documented it all. And I feel like it's for us to pick up and to use in our daily fight, so we just will not be distracted. We won't be waiting for the next cop to shoot a Black person and be upset about that, but then not be up, not be up looking at like housing loans and the things that are owed to our people. We should be fighting for that. Like fighting for it for real, and not just when somebody does something to us and then we're in the streets. Like, no, we have to move this fight to a different place, because the fight is not really in the streets per se marching. The fight is in us gathering with our family, building with our family. The fight is in us having housing that we own, that our children own. The fight is us gathering back up our families. If you had a falling out with somebody, and if you can rectify it, and you know that it's something really silly, you should probably try to fix it, because now we're moving into the time where Black folks got to be together. We really can't afford to be mad at each other because somebody stepped on your shoe or somebody ate your last piece of whatever you had in the refrigerator. Like, it can't be no silly shit. If somebody has a bad attitude, it's time for us to sit down and talk about it and work through it, because we're coming to the part where we're going to need each other. And I don't mean need each other like, on some BS. I mean, we really, 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 really going to need each other, because it's about to get real, because now things are due. There's some things now that are due that you can't even escape it. So it's time for us to quit BSing and get down to work. So yeah. Um, yeah, I think that's all I want to say this morning. Just want to check in with y'all. I'll be back on point. I got some wonderful things in the cooker. My health has gotten much better. Good morning. I wanted to, oh wow. Yeah, this Stagville place, Mama Chrisanne, it's like, mm, mm, mm. It's yeah, I will be back in Philly on the 16th. I'll be there for 10 days. Some will be going to New York and then do some stuff in Philly, and then I'll have to come down to DC and see Mama Lean. We're moving kind of fast. We're in a huge, huge, huge bus. So, yeah, but hopefully next year it'll be back to working with all the Black girls again. Though I do love the unity, I love having both groups. I do really miss when we just center ourselves. So I think that sometimes, I'm telling you what the lesson has been for me, having the Asian girls here and looking at their culture, is that we are so far behind. But yet, even in us being behind, we have still kicked the door open for everybody else to be here the way they want to be here. So with that, it lets me know that next year I got to go even harder, and I got to pull some people together to help me get money to do this dream, like, bigger, because our Black girls deserve the investment. One thing I will say, that in our Black girls, there's a fight. They have fight in them. And when we went to some of those places, we went to the Least We Forget Museum in Germantown, which laid the foundation so beautifully for us to go to that African American Smithsonian. And then it's really helped us to understand Stagville, because they actually got a chance to touch artifacts. I talked to them about energy, and when we was in those enslaved quarters where people lived, the girls, like, it was just, the energy was there. But because they have such fight in them, they have a lot of fight in them. We got to teach them where that fight comes from and what they're supposed to do with it. So I tell you, sorry about that, y'all. Try to pick my cup up. I tell you this though, for some reason, I feel so heavily the energy of the ancestors. I feel like I'm walking in their footsteps. And every time I think I'm about done with this, they roll up on me and they remind me that you're not finished. Your journey has just begun. You ain't finished with nothing. We sent you here to do exactly what you're doing now. When we were standing in Stagville, in those enslaved quarters where people lived, I was reminded, like in a bulk, like I was reminded. I was reminded that my ancestors went through all of that because they knew that I was coming. And I had to remind my girls, because they was boo-hooing. And I was like, man, your ancestors was clearing the road. Their surviving cleared your road. So we get to stand here and do whatever we want to do, whatever we do with our time. But do remember that it was the people who survived places like this. It was people who were dreaming of days that they knew they would never, ever see. It was people who had hope, and you are that hope. And I think they really understood that. And I was like, in your tears is like a blessing for them. It's like showers for their spirit. It was so powerful. And I really believe sometimes it's the ancestors reminding me that when I came onto the planet in 1971, October the 18th day, that they was like, girl, we got work for you. We had to send you down here to help remind people of, what it is that we're doing and why they've come to the planet right now. So I'm very grateful for this trip. I'm very grateful. I always love watching young people's eyes light up because I want them to go back to their communities and never be the same. I want them to go back to their communities with some fire. I want them to go back to their communities, you know what I'm saying? And never forget, like, we're supposed to be here doing something. And I think sometimes we miss that because we get distracted. We get so distracted. You know what I'm saying? We get so distracted. I get distracted. I go to post 2 things or 3 things like I'm supposed to do a day, and I get distracted when looking at other people's stuff. You know, but it's okay. This is what the trip is all about. I also want to reach out to girls and women's group, Black girls and women groups across the country to figure out how we can all do something together. I would love for us to meet up at Stagville. I would love for us to meet up at the Lynching Memorial. I would love for us to meet up in a place that would connect us to the history, but also help push us through to the future. I don't know what that looks like yet, but I know that it's coming. So anyway, I am coming live from the 2022. I just see it says 23. I do not have my glasses on, so I can't really see like the small print. But and I'm gonna check back in with y'all. Have a great Sunday. Thank you for listening.